1 Kings chapter 2, verse 13 onwards. This whole section is about the fate of all those people that conspired or plotted against King Solomon. Verse 13. Now Adonijah, son of Haggith, went to Bathsheba, Solomon's mother. Bathsheba asked him, "Do you come peacefully?" He answered, "Yes, peacefully." And he added, "I have something to say to you." "You may say it," she replied. "As you know, the kingdom was mine, and all Israel looked to me as their king. But things have changed, and the kingdom has gone to my brother, for it has come to him from the Lord Yahweh. Now, I have one request to make to you. Don't refuse me," he said. "You may make it," she said. So he continued, "Please ask King Solomon, for he will not refuse you, to give me Abishag, the Shunammite, as my wife." "Very well," Bathsheba said, "I will speak to the king for you." When Bathsheba went to King Solomon to speak to him for Adonijah, the king stood up to greet her, bowed down to her, and sat down on his throne. He then had a throne brought for the king's mother, Bathsheba, and she sat at his right hand. "I have one small request to make to you. Do not refuse me," she said. The king replied, "Make it, my mother. I will surely not refuse you." So she said, "Let Abishag, the Shunammite, be given in marriage to your brother Adonijah." The king answered his mother, "Why do you request Abishag the Shunammite for Adonijah? You might as well request the whole kingdom for him. After all, he is my older brother. Yes, for him and for Abinadab the priest and Joab, son of Zeruiah." Then King Solomon swore by the Lord Yahweh, "May God deal with me, be it ever so severely, if Adonijah does not pay for his life for this request. And now, as surely as the Lord Yahweh lives, he who has established me securely on the throne of my father David, and has founded a dynasty for me as he promised, Adonijah will be put to death to this very day." So King Solomon gave orders to Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, and he struck down Adonijah, and Adonijah died. Okay, now this seems a little bit shocking because it seems that he's going out of proportion. What I mean to say is, all Adonijah asked for was this lady who was, helping the king. And Solomon blows up and executes her. Well, there's more to it than this, because you see, in that time, in this part of the world, when you took over the kingdom, like if you conquered the kingdom, or if you took over from somebody, or even if the old king died sometimes, or there was rebellion, whatever it was, there were a couple of things that would happen to the ex-wives and concubines of the king. Now, in some places, the new king would take them for himself. They would become his wives and his concubines. And by doing that, he would show that he was now the king instead of the old king. In some places, he would just take the entire harem, like the entire group that was originally the wives and concubines of the old kings, and he'd take care of them. One of the reasons for this is many of these concubines and wives were actually gifts that came with the peace treaty. For example, if one king made a peace treaty with another, very often he would give his daughter or one of his relatives to the other king as an assurance that he would not break this treaty. So when you became king, you also took all those old wives and things, and they became your assurance that this person wouldn't break the treaty. That was one. It was also a sign of power that you were the next in line if you were to sleep with the concubines of the previous ruler or king. Now, this is what happened. So, technically, Abishag did not sleep with King David, right? She had no relations with him. But because she was officially considered one of his concubines, Adonijah is trying to do this in such a way In fact, even Bathsheba didn't understand what he was doing. But he was trying to do it in such a way that maybe he was hoping they wouldn't notice that he was really claiming to be the rightful king. Now, he is straight up lying to Bathsheba at parts of this, and he's trying to trick her. That's why he used this, oh yes, he's trying to be very nice, like, oh yes, this kingdom should have been mine, but God gave it to your son, so let me ask this little thing. But in reality, what he's trying to do, it seems like this is part of his plot to overthrow King Solomon, or at least to make it look like he should have been the real king and not King Solomon. So that's what's going on in this situation. So it's not really anything about Abishag. It is really all about Adonijah's still having the desire to rule, still being overly ambitious, not being satisfied with his life, not being satisfied that his brother had allowed him to continue to live and to continue to be a prince, in fact. Okay, anyway, so Adonijah tries this. It does not go over well. King Solomon figures it out. Obviously, he was smart. He figures it out, and he executes Adonijah. Okay. You also see one or two other interesting things here. When Bathsheba goes to see the king bows down to her, shows a lot of respect for her because she's the queen mother. He even brings her a throne and puts it on the right side. And to be on the right side of someone shows that you have a lot of favor with them. The right side is like the best spot, supposedly, and the left side is the second best spot, which is why in the New Testament, the James and John's mother asks that they sit on the right and the left. Anyway, so let's move on to the next person. 26. To Abiathar the priest, the king said, "Go back to your fields in Anathoth. You deserve to die, but I will not put you to death now, because you carried the ark of the sovereign Lord Yahweh before my father David and shared all my father's hardships." So Solomon removed Abiathar from the priesthood of the Lord Yahweh, fulfilling the word that the Lord Yahweh had spoken at Shiloh about the house of Eli. When the news reached Joab, who had conspired with Adonijah, though not with Absalom, he fled to the tent of the Lord Yahweh and took hold of the horns of the altar. King Solomon was told that Joab had fled to the tent of the Lord Yahweh and was beside the altar. Then Solomon ordered Benaiah son of Jehoiada, "Go, strike him down." So Benaiah entered the tent of the Lord Yahweh and said to Joab, "The king says, 'Come out.'" But Joab replied, "No, I will die here." So Benaiah reported the king, "This is what Joab answered to me." Then the king commanded Benaiah, "Do as he says. Strike him down and bury him, and so clear my name and my father's house of the guilt of the innocent blood that Joab shed. The Lord Yahweh will repay him for all the blood he has shed, because without the knowledge of my father David, he attacked 2 men and killed both of them with the sword. Both of them, Abner son of Ner, the commander of Israel's army, and Amasa son of Jether, the commander of Judah's army, were better men and more upright than he. May the guilt of their blood rest on the head of Joab and his descendants forever. But on David and his descendants, his house and his throne, may the Lord's Yahweh's peace